to the holiday version of Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Thanks for being with us. Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch, is here. Welcome, Pat.
Hi, Kent.
And Jim Schrader, the publisher of the Telegraph, is alongside. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, Kent.
Jim, we need to talk about 2012. We need to talk about 2013. During our final 2011 program, it was predicted that the top 2012 stories would be the state budget, the elections, economic recovery, and school finances. What do you now view as the top stories of 2012?
We said all that in 11? Boy, look how smart we were, guys. we nailed it dead on, didn't we? And I think if you go into what the top stories are going to be for next year, pull elections out of that, and at least statewide, you've still got the same mix. We still have a huge mess in the state of Illinois with budgets that we can't meet and deficits that we can't cover and bills we can't pay. Even though we 2 years ago in a lame duck session implemented a 67% increase in the income tax, that really didn't make a dent in where we are now. We've paid off a few bills, but we still have a looming debt. We've done nothing in the state to deal with the pension that we were talking about last year and the year before, and seems like we've been talking about it for every year. That hasn't changed yet either. We've still got the same problems that we had this time a year ago. The only difference is we know who is going to be in the General Assembly in the state of Illinois. We know who's going to be the president for the next 4 years. We didn't know either of those things a year ago today. We do now, but we still have the same messes in Springfield that are going to have to be dealt with. But as I jokingly say around here, it scares me, however, that the General Assembly that needs to be dealing with this realizes that there's another election coming in 2 years, and that seems to be the excuse of why we do nothing. I hope when we do this a year from now that we're not saying the same thing then that we are now, that the state of the budget in the state of Illinois is still the biggest story in 2013 and 2014. Let's hope there's some type of fix in the play by then.
Pat, the biggest stories of 2012?
I think maybe the most disturbing story of 2012 is that we don't have the economic progress that we might have been naive enough to think a year ago we might have. Because that affects everything. It affects the employment, it affects the revenue coming into all the government coffers in the state down to the smallest mosquito abatement district. It affects the fullest range of the economy. We're not coming back as fast as we'd like. It's a subject of significant political debate in Illinois among those who don't think we're as business friendly as we ought to be. But regardless of whether we are, if you look at the national scope of things, we're not in the kind of shape that we'd hope to be. Until we get true economic recovery, until the unemployment rate goes down further, until consumer confidence comes up, until businesses let loose of some of their money and really begin to invest in building things and in hiring more people, until those events happen, we're going to continue to stumble along and lament the problems we're having with the budget and with which prisons to close. That's been going on now for, it seems like, the better part of a year, and just a variety of the problems attendant to not having enough money. And the ultimate solution to all of this is going to be an economic recovery that pumps more money in. Whether we're going to see that in the confines of 2013, I have no idea. But because the economy hasn't changed much, neither have our perceptions of what the most important stories are, because the problems of the economy are the most important stories of the day, certainly on the local level. I mean, you can worry about what's happening in the Mideast, and that's, sort of beyond our purview. You worry about what's happening in Iran, maybe worry about what's happening in North Korea. But for those of us who are focused on the state of Illinois and smaller, the scenery just hasn't changed much.
At the end of 2011, we talked about the fact that the elections in 2012 were going to be one of the big state stories. We had a lot of hype leading up to the elections, but now that they've been over for a while, in hindsight, did they have that much of an impact? Are they going to result in a big change in 2013?
Well, I don't know that I'm surprised to see that life under President-elect Obama in the interim to the next term is really no different from life under President Obama in the previous first 4 years. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad. I would have expected a more dynamic change had Mr. Romney been elected president, but I'm not saying that would be change for the better either. I'm not sure at all that it would be. So I would see this as more incremental on a national level, and those are the elections that meant most to us in Illinois because we had nobody up for the Senate and no statewide offices up. From the legislative point of view in Illinois, what really did happen is that the Democrats solidified their power even more by attaining veto-proof majorities in both the House and the Senate. With a governor who's a Democrat and supermajority majorities in the House and the Senate, it seems like it's awfully hard for the Democratic Party not to take great responsibility for fixing problems because seldom has any one political party had all this wherewithal in one moment, in one critical moment, more than this. So I think a lot, personally, I would expect a lot from Governor Quinn, from Speaker Madigan, from Senate President Cullerton. I'm not necessarily sure we're going to get it because they're all players who've been on the stage for rather some time, and I think we've seen what's in their toolboxes, and that hasn't gotten things fixed yet. But maybe under these circumstances they can resolve together to do better. But they can't blame the Republicans. The Republicans are pretty impotent in Illinois as of the year 2012.
Jim, at the end of 2011, we talked about the elections being a big factor in 2012. Now that they're over, now that the dust has settled, were they that big of an issue for the state?
Well, I think the biggest factor was it stimulated the economy with all of the millions of dollars being spent on campaign ads and signs and
Certainly helped the Illinois TV industry.
yes, it certainly did. What we didn't see in November was particularly a change. I think I read 85% of the incumbents were reelected nationwide. Okay, that is a huge number. And when you look back, more than a year ago, prior to November, we were going through all of this turmoil nationwide. We were going through all this turmoil in the state, and people kept saying, "Well, just wait till the election. We're going to vote these bums out." We heard it over and over and again. They've had their chance. They didn't get anything done. We're going to, vote someone else in. It didn't happen. Certainly in the state of Illinois, it didn't happen. There's now a veto-proof majority in the General Assembly in the state of Illinois. The Democrats have a stranglehold. We have the same president of the United States. We have, though they changed a few seats here and there, we still have a similar makeup in the Senate. We still have a similar makeup in the House of Representatives in Washington. And you would think that people that were calling for change in August and September of 2012 might have made different choices on November the 6th. Or the apathy kicked in, or they didn't show up, or, well, I know that guy's name, or I wasn't an educator. Who knows what happened? But for all of the problems this country has, and for all of the problems we have in the state of Illinois, for better than 80% of the incumbents to be reelected is I'm not sure exactly what it says about the voters, but now we know what we're stuck with. And we hope that something will happen statewide and nationwide to deal with some of these problems.
From a political standpoint, from a budget standpoint, looking at the state as a whole, did 2012 turn out better, worse, or about as you expected?
I guess I was cautiously optimistic that the increase in income tax might have a little more effect on getting some of the past due bills done. I guess I was Pollyannish in the hope that something would be done with the pension crisis in the state of Illinois. That didn't happen on the pension side, and really the increase in income tax had a minimal effect on the backlog of unpaid bills that we have. I think we were all hopeful a year ago, but when you come right down to it, not a whole lot happened.
Pat, 2012, did it turn out better, worse, or about as you expected?
About as I expected, worse than I wish it had. The big recovery still hasn't taken full hold, I guess. One of the more discouraging things about 2012 to me is actually forward-looking, but not looking forward very far. It is the recognition on the part of Governor Pat Quinn that even with a supermajority of Democrats, the situation is so grim in Springfield that he thinks the best hope of getting reform is before July 9th, when the lame ducks are out. January 9th, I'm sorry. Did I say July?
Yes.
January 9th, before the lame ducks leave. And then the fear that people who are a larger number of people planning to run for re-election are going to do the politically expedient thing, and that the best chance to get political spine is out of people who are on their way out because they don't have anything to lose. It's pessimistic. I think it's maybe realistic at the same time, but it's frustrating. It's a product of the year 2012, and it suggests, if he's right, that before we're 2 weeks into 2013, our best chances for reform are already behind us.
We need to take a break. We'll take a look at 2013 after this.
Hi, I'm Audrey Lucchese, and I'm from Alton, Illinois. I love music, and that's why I came to Lewis & Clark. It's been an amazing experience here at Lewis & Clark, working with students that are so talented, coming from all over the area, and they work so hard to follow their dreams. The music faculty at Lewis & Clark they're fantastic, and they're there every step of the way to push you to follow your dreams. One of the unique opportunities that I have had at Lewis & Clark is being able to record my own music with a fellow student here. Being able to record our music has opened doors for us in the music industry. My long-term goal is to finish here at Lewis & Clark and then to transfer to a four-year school and finish my degree in music performance. I would recommend Lewis & Clark to another student because it is definitely a great place to get started, and it can open so many doors for you.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education.
Right up here.
So every year I take promising high schoolers on a college tour
And lights there, darks there.
to show them that higher education means a brighter future.
My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Find out how you can live united for education. Give, advocate, volunteer. Go to liveunited.org.
Do you wear this?
This is the holiday edition of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. Jim Schrader and Pat Gowan are here. Pat, we've talked about 2012. Let's talk 2013. What are the top stories in 2013 going to be?
Well, maybe Jim and I will go back and forth on this. We can pick one and go back and forth because I think we're going to have a lot of the same things on our list. Let me open by talking about the pensions. Before we were just talking about budget, but the budget question is really focused more on the pensions in the year 2012 and the solution hopefully in 2013. And what solution will be is anybody's guess, because when you're $90 billion behind in your pension payments, that's a huge amount of money in a state that's now about $7,500 for every man, woman, and child in the state. Send your checks to Springfield today because that'll get us out of our budget hole. Not very likely. The big question looming is, will the General Assembly successfully shove the obligation to pay future teacher pensions onto the schools? Because that is a certain prescription for for property tax increases by the school districts. It's a way that the state will just take the bill off their plate and put it on the local plate. Good luck. From a common sense point of view, it seems like a reasonable solution. It makes me wonder why it always wasn't that way. But to do this in mid-game, in mid-recession, is a big blow to the local school districts. And even though I would expect it to be phased in over a period of time, and even though those districts aren't being expected to pay the backlog, just their costs going forward, it's still going to be a lot of money and it's going to require a property tax increase in a lot of places, or rather draconian cuts to schools that have been racked by cuts before. So while Springfield may look upon this as relief and look at what a great job we've done, the same pool of taxpayers outside Chicago will be paying the bill for this. I say outside Chicago because it's got its own teacher retirement system. It's funded, apparently properly funded pretty much by the district itself. So this would put everybody in the same footing as Chicago, but it would represent a tax change for the people in outstate. The people in Chicago wouldn't feel it.
State pension costs, Jim, do you agree that's going to be one of the biggies of 2013?
Well, I think Pat touched on a portion of it, because I think that's probably going to happen, as repulsive as that is to me to think.
By January 9th.
By January the 9th, that's right. That the local school districts are going to have to pick up the obligation for funding the school pensions within that district. Okay, we have now moved it from this plate to this plate. I think one of the big stories next year is, now what do we do with the $90 billion we are still in the hole? Because that hole is still dug. You know, if we apportion out the teachers' pensions to all of these individual school districts, I think it's $1.2 million a year to the Alton School District. It's about $600,000 to Bethalto. I think it's $1.6 million to Edwardsville. All of those school districts are either going to have to cut in other areas or raise property taxes. Okay, that portion is done. How do we fill the hole back up for the $90 billion that we're still in the hole? We can't even pay our ongoing bills as a state to providers, contractual providers to the state. We can't even pay those bills on time, much less hope to make a dent in the backlog of the pension expense. I want to know where that plan's going to come forth. Okay, we move the teacher portion out. We still got to fill the hole back up with dirt, and we moved the dirt somewhere else and covered it with concrete. It's not like we can go back and pick up that dirt.
What else besides the pensions in 2013?
Well, and we talked about this on last week's program. I think it's going to be really interesting what happens in the state of Illinois with the gun laws in the state. With the tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut, same time with the 5th District ruling on concealed carry in the state of Illinois, there is going to be an outcry for some type of legislation in the state of Illinois for concealed carry, while the other side of the fence is going to say we want outright bans of certain types of firearms, certain capacity magazines. I think that one's going to be real interesting, and I don't know that one can be done by January 9th. That one's really contentious, but I think that's going to be a huge story in 2013.
Gun laws, Pat, that's going to be one of the big items in 2013?
Absolutely, no choice but to deal with it because of the way the court structured that decision. I think another big story of 2013 is going to be the 2014 election. All the constitutional offices are up, including the governor. And if that seems like a long way from now, consider that's 14 months from right now is the primary election. So 2014 is going to show us what the Republican Party is going to be for 2014. It's going to show us what kind of fights for the Democratic Party for 2014. It'll be an interesting year for setting up an election.
Buy that, Jim?
I buy that. We were saying that a year ago, though, weren't we? About the elections in 2012. It'd be interesting to see. But I think it is going to be a lot of jockeying for position, especially if, as we have experienced this year, nothing gets better in the next 12 months.
And of course, you've got Senator Durbin up for election too. Not that I sense he's in particular trouble at this point, but it's going to be a very active state election year, where 2012 was not really an active state election year at all for us.
Very upbeat program today as we present the Grinch version of Metro Talk. We've got more in a moment.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to be talking with Michelle Singley about the dental hygiene program.
Dental hygiene students learn a variety of treatment skills when they're enrolled in the program at Lewis and Clark. For example, students learn to take a thorough medical history, to perform a head and neck assessment, including an oral cancer screening, and to assess the gum tissue, teeth, and bone of their patients. The students also take dental x-rays, perform dental cleanings, place dental sealants to prevent cavities, and treat the patient's teeth with fluoride or fluoride varnish. Dental hygiene students also teach others to take good care of their teeth with oral hygiene aids such as brush and floss. Our Gina the giraffe puppet is one of the students' favorites. We take her out to the schools to teach the kids good oral habits. For more information about the dental hygiene program, call us at 468-4413 and you can meet Gina.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
Lead paint poisoning affects 1 million children today. If you're pregnant or have young children and your home was built before 1978, you could be at risk. Learn how to protect your family. To find your home's danger zones, the health effects, or just to find help, log on to leadfreekids.org.
Bring out the action hero in you. Fuel up right and get energized. Be part of the greatest action movie ever. The first movie that puts you in the action. Show us how you train and eat like an action hero. Join in at actionheroalliance.com.
This is Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Jim Schrader and Pat Gowan are here. Jim, we're talking about 2013. We'd mentioned the elections right before the break. Are we going to see Republican Party gains in 2013? It's not been good for the Republican Party in recent years in Illinois.
It hasn't, and while we didn't have any statewide offices up this year, we will have next year. It will be interesting to see as we progress through 2013 if things don't get better in this state, if the Republicans can then capitalize on it in the fall of 14. Many people thought that the Republicans were going to do better nationwide this year, just due to the problems that we've had. Didn't go that way. State of Illinois is a blue state. We know. I think the state was called for President Obama about 2 minutes after the polls closed on November the 6th. If the Republicans can't capitalize on gaining seats in the state of Illinois when things are broken, which by many counts they are broken in the state of Illinois now, then it's going to be harder and harder to find sacrificial lambs to run as a Republican, knowing that you're just not going to have a chance in the state. I think a lot of this is going to hinge upon if the economy, if budget attainment, if bills get paid, if things get better in Springfield in 2013, then I think the status quo will be maintained. If things continue to erode or get no better, then the Republicans should have a chance to capitalize.
Pat, will we see the Republican Party make gains in 2013?
As we're talking about 2014's elections, there may not be a whole lot of gains to make in 2013 for us. One of the questions on my mind is who will the Republicans be? Presuming somebody's going to run for governor in 2014, and we'll have to put together a campaign in 2013. Could it be Judy Bar-Topinka, the state controller? Is she got another round left in her? Is she going to try? Is it going to be? I mean, she's failed in that respect before. Dan Rutherford coming out of the treasurer's office. Maybe him. I think he's making noises like he wants to run. I think he's setting himself up. Brady, the state senator, Bill Brady, who ran against Quinn and lost. If he couldn't beat Quinn that time, is there a chance of beating him next time? And Brady represents a pretty extreme right-wing piece of the Republican Party in Illinois, which in the past has proven that it isn't so many other places that it can hold some sway over who gets nominated, but then really can't deliver the kind of push to get people elected. So what the Republican Party is going to look like in Illinois in 2014 is going to depend on a lot of groundwork in 2013. And will the Republican Party be grooming candidates who can win general elections as well as primaries. That's the big question in Illinois, as is the big question in other places. Legislatively, the Democrats have held pretty strong control for a long time in Illinois, and I doubt that that's going to be changing very much anytime soon. Madison County had seen 2 Republicans win in the last election, but one of them lost a job in countywide elections. So the local Republican Party had kind of a foothold that kind of backslid a little bit. But whether we're going to see a stronger Republican Party in Metro East is a question. Hugh Enyart did win more easily than some thought he would as a Democrat in a congressional district for the seat Jerry Costello held, when a fair number of people thought Jason Plummer might win that seat. It also raises the question of what Plummer, the young Republican, having now lost for the Congress and lost for Lieutenant Governor, what his political future might be. If you're really oriented toward politics at all and interested in the Republican Party in Illinois and southwestern Illinois, there'll be quite a bit to keep your eye on in the year 2013.
Jim made reference to the state's economy and the fact that if it improves in 2013, that may bode well for the Democrats. If it doesn't improve in 2013, may bode well for the Republicans. Do you see that being a big factor?
There also was a day when the economy was not the overriding issue in all things political. And as we have economic recovery, while the Democrats in control will want to take as much credit for that as possible, we may also reach a point of equilibrium where we're less concerned about the economic future immediately ahead and become diverted to more issues, social issues and other issues in which Republicans may be able to play a greater role. So yeah, I see that see economic recovery is cutting in favor of the party in control when it happens, which at the moment would be the Democrats. But I don't think that forecloses the Republicans in the long term from some resurgence. In Illinois, we have gone from times when all the statewide office holders were Democrats to times all the statewide office holders were Republicans. And that could very well happen again. It has sackled through that way in Missouri. It's sackled through that way in Illinois. And just because Democrats have 4 of the 6 statewide offices now doesn't mean that won't change. I ought to also say Mark Kirk's recovery, the one Republican U.S. Senator, going to be returned to the Senate after having had a stroke about a year ago. He's not due up for election until 2016. One of the big questions is Mark Kirk going to be up to the job? I hope he is. Hope he recovers well. But that's going to be measured, and if it looks like he's falling short, there'll be people looking about what to do about him in 2016. That will also start probably sooner rather than later.
Jim, Pat mentioned Madison County and the fact that there were two Republican office holders in Madison County. That went down to 1 in the last election. Do you see the party gaining any strength in the county in 2013?
The Republican Party, as we've pointed out so many times before, is going to have a tough time in Madison County. This year it was a sweep, and the one office holder lost his seat. That's going to continue probably in Madison County for the foreseeable future.
That's going to do it for this edition of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. Jim Schrader, the publisher of The Telegraph, has been here, along with Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch. I'm Kent Scheffel. We'll see you next time.